Ilse Koch, often referred to as the Witch of Buchenwald. She was a notorious figure during the Nazi era, known for her cruelty and sadism. She was the wife of Karl Otto Koch, the commandant of the Buchenwald and Maidaneck concentration camps. Eyewitness accounts from survivors describe her riding a white horse through the camp in revealing clothing, whipping prisoners at whim, and selecting those with distinctive tattoos for execution. She had their skin allegedly harvested for souvenirs like lampshades, book covers, and gloves. She reportedly collected shrunken human heads and other macabre items. She forced prisoners to salute her villa, beat them for minor infractions, and reveled in their humiliation. One survivor testified that she once ordered a prisoner beaten to death for a perceived insult. These acts were enabled by the camp's systemic brutality, including hangings, shootings, gassings, and starvation under Karl's command. She was also said to have commissioned the construction of an indoor riding arena, which cost over 250,000 Reichsmarks. About 30 prisoners were reported to have died laboring to complete its construction. Once completed, mirrors were placed all around it so Ilse could ride around looking at herself. These accusations paint a picture of a woman who was not only complicit in the horrors of the concentration camps but actively participated in and exacerbated the suffering of the prisoners. Her actions were so notorious that she became one of the most reviled figures of the regime. How Karl Otto Koch's crimes at Buchenwald came to light were due to his corruption, embezzlement, mixed in with the internal politics of the SS, which led to investigations by Nazi authorities. He skimmed profits from prisoner labor, extorted money from inmates, sold black market goods, and he also misappropriated camp supplies and funds. Josias von Waldeck-Pyrmont, SS and police leader for Weimar, began an internal investigation into the mismanagement of Buchenwald as well as the murder of 3 inmates, one of which Josias knew. A man by the name of Walter Kramer who had successfully treated Josias for an illness he had in the past. During the investigation of SS records, financial audits, and testimonies from other officers and prisoners, discrepancies in Buchenwald's accounts, such as missing funds and unreported goods, items stolen from prisoners, all pointed to Koch's theft. Karl was first arrested by the SS in 1941. It is important to note that SS Chief Heinrich Himmler and Karl Koch were good friends. When he heard of Karl's arrest, he ordered him released from jail. Karl wasn't quite off the hook yet. He was demoted and sent to command the Maidaneck concentration camp while Ilse continued to live at their Buchenwald villa with their children. A few years later that would all change. In 1943, Koch was arrested first by the SS, after Judge Conrad Morgan's investigation confirmed embezzlement. Koch was charged with financial crimes, including stealing over 25,000 Reichsmarks and ordering 3 prisoners to be done away with. Some sources say the men were dispatched to conceal Koch's corruption. Another source said Walter Kramer was specifically dispatched to hide the knowledge of Karl Koch having syphilis, but either way he had 3 men dispatched. Ilse Koch was arrested shortly afterward. They were both tried in a secret SS court in 1944. Karl Otto Koch was found guilty of embezzlement and the premeditated elimination of 3 inmates. He was executed at Buchenwald in April 1945, just days before the camp's liberation. While Ilse Koch was awaiting trial by the SS, she was in jail for 16 months. The SS court found that the evidence against Ilse Koch was insufficient to support the most serious allegations. When she was released, Ilse went to Ludwigsburg where she rented a small flat with her children. A far cry from the luxurious villa she once had. After the war in 1945, it was a former inmate of Buchenwald that spotted her while she was walking down the street. The former inmate reported her to the American occupation authorities. Ilse was then arrested and tried again for her war crimes, but this time by an American military court in 1947. This trial went a bit differently. Ilse was accused of participating in the systematic atrocities at Buchenwald, which resulted in the elimination of over 56,000 prisoners. This charge framed her as complicit in the camp's overall brutal regime, even though she held no official SS position. The prosecution relied heavily on survivor and witness testimonies, as well as physical evidence from Buchenwald, such as items found in the camp's pathology lab such as human skin artifacts. Ilse Koch was convicted on primarily incitement to eliminate prisoners, mistreatment of prisoners, and receiving stolen goods. She was sentenced to life imprisonment. In 1948, Ilse Koch's life sentence was controversially reduced to 4 years by General Lucius Clay, the U.S. military governor of Germany, with the approval of U.S. High Commissioner John McCloy. She was released in October 1949 after serving roughly 2 years, including time served since her arrest in June 1945. Both Clay and McCloy determined that the evidence presented in 1947 did not conclusively prove Ilse Koch personally committed or directly ordered prisoners to be dispatched. While she incited violence and mistreated prisoners, the prosecution failed to provide airtight evidence linking her to specific deaths. Such as the human skin lampshade allegations were deemed unproven, as no direct evidence tied her to ordering or possessing such items. Her mental condition was also cited as a factor, suggesting she may not have been fully culpable for her actions in the same way as SS officers with formal authority. Her release was also influenced by Cold War politics. By 1948, the U.S. was focused on rebuilding West Germany as an ally against the Soviet Union, leading to leniency for some lower-profile perpetrators to stabilize the region. Ilse's case, though high-profile, was seen as less significant than that of major Nazi leaders tried at Nuremberg. The decision to release Ilse Koch sparked outrage among camp survivors, the public, and U.S. officials, as her terrible reputation made her a symbol of cruelty, even though there wasn't evidence to tie her to the more serious allegations. However, in the court of public opinion, she was a deviant who had dispatched prisoners for their skins along with other horrible things. Despite public pressure, General Clay stood firm by his decision as he was more worried about communist aggression from the newly formed Soviet Union. The public and press widely viewed her early release as a miscarriage of justice. The backlash led to her rearrest by West German authorities in 1949, shortly after her release, as they sought to retry her under German law to address public demand for justice. Due to the controversy, Ilse Koch was extradited to West Germany and retried for a third time in Augsburg in 1950. The court sentenced her to life imprisonment. This time the sentence held, and she remained in Achak Women's Prison for the rest of her life. Ilse Koch sought to appeal her sentence in federal court, but it was dismissed. She later made several petitions for a pardon, all of which were rejected by the Bavarian Ministry of Justice. Koch even protested her life sentence to the International Human Rights Commission. All of her appeals and petitions were unsuccessful. There were 3 children Ilse Koch had with Karl Otto Koch. She also had a 4th child with a fellow inmate while she was awaiting trial at Dachau. Koch gave birth to a son she named Uwe Kohler while incarcerated. The child was immediately handed over to the child welfare authorities. Uwe only discovered the identity of his mother as a teenager and began to correspond with and visit his mother in 1966. At the age of 60, she was experiencing delusions that the camp survivors would abuse her in her cell. In 1967, with no hope of release and suffering from delusions, she made a fatal decision. In a final note she left to her son, she told him this was the only way for her and this was a release. Years later, when General Clay was talking about the case, he said, "There was absolutely no evidence in the trial transcript, other than she was a rather loathsome creature, that would support the death sentence. I suppose I received more abuse for that than for anything else I did in Germany." And that was introduced in court, where it was absolutely proven that the lampshades were made out of goat skin. In addition to that, her crimes were primarily against the German people. They were not war crimes against American or Allied prisoners. Later she was tried by a German court for her crimes and sentenced to life imprisonment. But they had clear jurisdiction. We did not.